What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another episode of Predict the Prem as the Premier League returns, seeing as we had a 1 week off for the FA Cup, but we are back and a full round of Premier League fixtures once again this weekend, and it starts off with the London Derby. But first of all, let's get into the scores. 186 to Simeon, 199 to me. The race to 200 is on, and the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result on the Star Man. Once you pick them, you cannot pick them again for the entirety of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. And let's get into that London Derby. Is Chelsea against Fulham at Stamford Bridge. Sim's gone 3-1 to Chelsea. I've gone for 1-0 to Chelsea, but tell me what you're thinking.
I think Chelsea Friday night at home and a London derby. I think they're going to be well up for it. I think the likes of Mudryk is going to really be out to impress, most likely on his home debut. They got a decent result last time out against Liverpool away from home in a 0-0 draw. Maybe form could be starting to turn for Chelsea. We have to wait and see. I'm not 100% convinced of it just yet, but I just think in this kind of game, I do see them having a good go at Fulham. And I think Fulham, 2 losses on the bounce, albeit both games 1-0. Still a very solid defensive side, but Chelsea do have a lot of talent, and on their day, I think in a London derby like this, I reckon they could turn it on. So I've gone for 3-1.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a bit more closer. I've gone for 1-0 to Chelsea. Fulham have been a really well-organised team this season. They've been playing really well, but as of late, results haven't been going their way, and they have been just about coming out of games 1-0 defeats, I think, in their last 2 or 3 games. Chelsea, on the other hand, haven't been impressive whatsoever, but they have really, when you talk about a team that have won the transfer window, I think you can safely say Chelsea have done that with absolutely brilliant talent being brought in, young talent. So I think they will win. I think they'll have a bit of good feeling coming to this game, but I think it's a bit closer than maybe what you're suggesting. So I've gone for 1-0 to Chelsea. Moving on to Everton against Arsenal. Sim has gone for 4-1 to Everton on Sean Dyche's first game.
Not to Everton, bloody hell.
Sorry, to Arsenal on Sean Dyche's first game in charge at Everton at Goodison. I've gone for 2-0 to Arsenal, and I think that actually Sean Dyche is probably the correct choice for them. Everton manager, I thought he was the one that they should have gone for, and that's who they have gone for. I thought anyone else maybe would have been a disaster, especially some of the names that were linked there. But look, we all know how Arsenal are doing this season, and it'll be silly to predict anything but 3 points to Arsenal. But I have a feeling that Sean Dyche's first game might get into them. You might see a bit of a new manager bounce, but the new manager bounce puts it at 2-0, not 4-0, so I've gone for 2-0.
Yeah, I reckon they'll be up for it. I reckon there's going to be a lot of strong challenges early doors. I reckon the crowd are going to be on their side from the start with Sean Dyche being their manager. I just think that there's very low quality right now, and I think this might be a really bad opening game for Dyche, where he tries to get his team up for it, but Arsenal will be just too good for them on the day. And I feel like this would be one of those games where Dyche turns around and just starts to realise how big of a job he has on his hands. And I think I can even see them going 1-0 up or getting a goal in the first half and then thinking they're in the game. But I think Arsenal are just going to be too good, and they're going to, in the end, run a bit of riot. So I've gone for a 4-1 win at Goodison.
Yeah, it literally is the worst game Everton could have picked to start off Sean Dyche's tenure, but at least they're getting it out the way early. But let's move on to Villa against Leicester. 1-1 I've gone for in this game. Sim's gone for 2-1 to Villa. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I actually don't think Villa have been, they've got some good results, but I actually don't think their performances have been that amazing, albeit their form has been very impressive. What Unai Emery has done is turn them into a very solid, consistent team. Not too many ups and downs, more just a solid, consistent performances. But at the moment, they seem to be getting the rub of the green and over the line in results. For example, last time out against Southampton, they just had a goal ruled out from VAR, Southampton to go 1-0 up, and then then the next attack, Villa go 1-0 up, and they end up winning the game 1-0. So it's those kind of things that are going for them at the moment. Having said that, Leicester did stop the rot against Brighton after a run of, I think, 4 straight defeats after the World Cup. But I just feel like Aston Villa at home in this kind of game will be too strong for Leicester, so I'm confident to shade it 2-1, but I think it could be another game where they ride their luck.
Yeah, it's interesting because Leicester last time out, they had a really good result against Brighton where everyone thought Brighton was going to sweep them away, and they ended up drawing the game 2-2. So maybe they'll take a bit of confidence from that game into this game at Villa Park. On Aston Villa's side, I feel like they've been much better away from home under Unai Emery than they have been at home. So I've just gone for them to split the spoils at 1-1, and with James Maddison back as well, it could spur Leicester on, maybe even to get the win, but I've just gone for 1-1 for now. Sim's gone for 2-1 to Villa. Moving on to Brentford against Southampton. Sim's gone for 1-1. I've gone for 2-0. Southampton on the back of 3 losses in a row. Brentford in the Premier League, that is, and Brentford are just flying at the moment. I think they're playing really good football, really good team. So I just can't see Southampton taking any points here. 2-0 to Brentford at the Brentford Community Stadium.
I'm seeing improvements in Southampton. They did get they did get a win against Everton not so long ago, I think a couple of games ago in the Premier League. Their losses now, they're turning into, when they do lose, they're turning into quite tight losses as opposed to games before where maybe they were conceding lots of goals. Against Newcastle, both legs, I thought first leg at home to Newcastle in the Carabao, they were very unlucky to lose that 1-0. But second leg, they obviously lost 2-1, but they did give it a good go and could have maybe gotten a draw out of that game. I don't think they deserve to go through over the two ties, but I do think Nathan Jones is starting to show signs of life at Southampton, in my opinion. They have had a decent window, making some good signings like Sulemana for the forward line, and maybe Miroslav Orsic on the left-hand side. So maybe we're going to see some more potency in the second half of the season from Southampton. Brentford, obviously a really solid team at home and under really good form at the moment under Thomas Frank. But I just feel like Southampton's form could be enough to earn them a draw here.
Interesting. I just said they lost 3 games in a row in the Premier League. That's not the case. They lost 2 to Newcastle in the semi, and they lost 1 in the Premier League, and I think they won actually the previous 2 games. But I'll stick with my result because I do still believe Brentford are going to take all 3 points. Next up, though, is Brighton against Bournemouth at the Amex. Sim's gone for 3-1 to Brighton. I've gone for 3-0 to Brighton. I think we both agree Brighton are going to win this one, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Brighton... They were disappointed to have drawn their last game against Leicester where they really should have won. But obviously since then they've beaten Liverpool in the FA Cup and they're still going on as strong as ever. They've obviously let go of Trossard before the window. They've held on to Moises Caicedo, which would be a big boost from now to the end of the season. And I think Bournemouth... They have had a decent window. I like some of their signings they've made in the forward line, like Traore and Zabriani. So we're going to get a first look at them against Brighton, and maybe that can give them a bit of that extra energy. So I do see maybe a goal to their name, especially after they got the draw against Forest last time out. But Brighton are just playing some superb football right now, and I can't see them Bournemouth holding them out. So especially the form of Thomas on. So I've gone 3-1.
Yeah, Brighton look better than ever, to be honest. I mean, Graham Potter, De Zerbi has come in and literally pick up where he left off, if not doing better than what Potter was doing, showing at Brighton. So you've got to give credit to De Zerbi and the Brighton setup for how well they're doing. Matoma, like you said, absolutely on firing form. And Bournemouth, I think, have only scored 1 goal since the restart, since the Premier League. So I've gone for Brighton to keep another clean sheet here. They did get a point on the board last time out against Nottingham Forest, but I can't see anything but Brighton absolutely smashing Bournemouth this weekend. So I've gone for 3-0 to Brighton. Next up, Old Trafford, Manchester United against Crystal Palace. We've both gone for Man United wins. I've gone for 2-0. Sim's gone for 1-0. I do think it will be a closely fought encounter, but with the feeling around Man United at the moment, Jadon Sancho as well back in the setup. He was on the bench. I'm not sure if he came on in the last game, but apparently he's showing some good stuff in training at the moment. So I think Man United got the firepower up front against, look, it is a mean Crystal Palace defence, but I think they can do the business. So I've gone for 2-0.
Yeah, I think again, it's I think Man United are in good form despite the fact they haven't had a win in their last 2 Premier League games now. A draw against Palace themselves and a loss to Arsenal. Palace, on the other hand, have drawn their last 2 games against Newcastle and against Man United, 1-1 and 0-0. So I do expect a bit of a close game. I think with Palace adding Lokonga to their team as well, it's going to make that central midfield even more solid and harder to break down, in my opinion. I think it could be a good signing there. And on the breakaway, they do have talent to hurt Man United, although I do think Man United will keep a clean sheet. I just think it'll be the odd goal. I think it's going to be a very close game and a 1-0 win for Man United.
Interesting. Let's move on to Wolves against Liverpool. Sim's gone for 2-1 to Wolves. I've gone for 1-0 to Liverpool. So we've gone for not exact opposites, but opposites in this game. Why do you think Wolves are going to win this one?
Yeah, I think Lopetegui is starting to turn them around, Wolves. I'm quite like the way they've looked at. Even though I watched their game against Man City, and even though they lost 3-0, there are many opportunities they had to score goals, and they were quite good on the breakaway. And it was just unfortunate they came up against a Haaland who was inspired form. Obviously scored a hat trick, but I think Wolves under Lopetegui will be actually a quite good fit to play against this Liverpool side, who we know are going to come at Wolves. We know they need points on the board, 9th on the table, and they need to go and keep trusting the way that Klopp's been playing and that gung-ho system. And I think Lopetegui's a smart coach. He's going to make sure they're compact, hard to break down. And I think now with the January they've got some decent players in the forward line now. Sarabia, Matthias Cunha, and I can see them actually hurting Wolves. Liverpool going the other way. And now another injury for Liverpool in the defensive line. Konate's injured for a few games, so going to be even more difficult for Liverpool to shut out this Wolves side. So I've gone for a shock 2-1 win for Wolves at home, although with Liverpool's current form I don't know if it's that much of a shock anymore.
Yeah, probably not, to be honest. But the last 3 Wolves games have all finished 1-0. They've lost 1-0 twice and they've won 1-0 once. Liverpool's and Wolves, the last 3 games Liverpool have been to the Molineux, have all been 1-0 wins to Liverpool, albeit it is a very much different Liverpool side this season, albeit they did win 1-0 at the Cup, in the Cup there a week ago. I'm still just not convinced. I actually think Wolves are actually going to be the better team in this game and probably ask them more questions, but I'm still not convinced about that front line. Yes, Sarabia and Cunha have come in. Cunha, he's looked good in flashes, but hasn't really done much as of yet. And Sarabia, I don't think has made an appearance yet. So still questions remain about their front line. So I couldn't really, with heart, go for a Wolves win. So I've gone for 1-0 to Liverpool, and the results to keep going at the Molineux, 1-0 to Liverpool. Next up is Newcastle against West Ham, and surprise, surprise, we've gone for the exact same scoreline here, 1-0 to Newcastle. I think it's probably the most easiest one to predict, this one, 1-0 to Newcastle. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal in like forever in the Premier League, and if it's not going to be 0-0, it's definitely going to be 1-0. It's either one of those scorelines. Yeah,
and it's been after a few games, their last 4 games, Newcastle been 0-0, 0-0, 1-0, and 0-0, and then in the they won 2-1 in the Cup, but they've obviously been so mean defensively. West Ham at the moment also struggling to score. They're not the most creative team. I do think it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be very frustrating for Newcastle. They'll probably be having a lot of possession, and it'll be West Ham just trying to get the draw. But I think Newcastle should have enough quality to open the scoring. And I think although Bruno Guimaraes will be missing only for the next 3 games, that will hurt them. But I think they'll just find a moment of quality from some of the players they have on the pitch. And new signings as well. Anthony Gordon could provide something off the bench, and I think they'll have enough to get a 1-0 win. I don't see West Ham scoring right now against this mean Newcastle team.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, Nottingham Forest against Leeds. Sunday football. Sim's gone for 2-2. I've gone for 2-1. You know what? I was toying with 2-2, and I didn't know whether to go 2-2, 2-1, 2-2, 2-1. But I did side with 2-1 at the end. I think Nottingham Forest have been really impressive at home since September now. So that's credit to Steve Cooper and the job he's doing down up at Nottingham Forest. Leeds, on the other hand, they have drawn a fair amount of games recently, 2 of those being 2-2 with West Ham and Cardiff in the Cup. But I'm just going to side with the home team here just because of the way they're playing at home at the moment. So 2-1 to Forest.
Yeah, Forest unbeaten in 4 to their credit, and they've really come on strong after a really poor start to the season. Especially at home, they've become really tough to beat. I really like the business that Leeds have done in January. I like the look of the Rutter, the striker. I think, and also obviously Weston McKennie coming into the side as well. So they've done some impressive business this January.
Men's national
team. I don't know why they didn't make a deadline day move for Pulisic, but I really like the look of their team. And actually, when I look at them, Leeds, they've really improved recently in the way they play. They've been real lucky not to have got more wins on the board recently. And with Sinistera as well coming back into the team, and Bamford coming back up front and looking sharp. So I've gone for them to score. I just think Nottingham Forest at home as well, they're in good form and they're not going to go down without a fight. So I've gone for an open 2-2 draw.
I feel like we're constantly saying that about Leeds, whether it be under Jesse March, under Bielsa. I mean, they always play well, but they never get never get enough points on the board. It's like a broken record that about Leeds, isn't it? I remember us saying that at the back end of last season as well, when Jesse March first came in. It was like, oh, they're doing really well, and their performances deserve more points than they're getting, but they never seem to like push on and get those points consistently, do they?
But maybe now with the better quality players they're bringing into the team, like McKennie, then you'll start seeing those performances turn into points.
Yeah, potentially. And the last game of the weekend is the big one, Tottenham against Manchester City, where Harry Kane bids to become the top goal scorer, Tottenham's top goal scorer of all time. One more goal is what he needs. And Sim has gone for 2-2 here. I've gone for 2-1 to Spurs. And let's see what you're thinking.
Yeah, look, Porro's debut, Danjuma going to be hopefully make his Premier League debut. I think obviously Conte right now is recovering from obviously his surgery that he's just had, and I think hopefully that could rouse the squad, create a bit of an atmosphere in the stadium, everyone chanting Antonio, getting behind him, and I believe that hopefully we'll be up for it. Our form has started to turn a bit, thankfully. I know obviously we lost to Man City 4-2, but we've had clean sheets away at Palace, away at Fulham, and obviously Preston on the weekend. It was a good win. Sonny was back in the goals as well, so hopefully just in time for this big game against Man City. So I do see us causing them trouble. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. Man City, obviously, they don't seem quite right at the moment, although they have just won 3-0 against Wolves and 1-0 against Arsenal. So they have had two very good wins, but I'm hoping that if Danjuma and Porro can play a part and Sonny back on form, we will have the tools to really have really good transitions and counter-attacks against this Man City team and really hurt them. But I do think Man City right now, I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, so I've gone for 2-2.
Yeah, I can't see us keeping a clean sheet as well, but I really feel like we can get at Man City this weekend. The opportunities will be there for us, and if Sonny can carry on the form that he was showing at Preston last week and really kick on from there, I mean, he can be the real danger man like he always is against Man City, apart from obviously a couple of weeks back at the Etihad. So with Porro at right back, with Sonny up top, I really think there's going to be opportunities for us in behind with the pace and the power that we got there. So like you say, Man City don't really seem at it. Well, they do seem at it. They just don't seem usually what they usually are, the mad heights that they usually set for themselves. So even with them being pegged down a few notches, they're still like one of the best teams in the Premier League, obviously one of the best teams in Europe. So we still need to be wary, and I still think it's going to be a tight game. But I think with Sonny coming back into form, with Pedro Porro coming in, Danjuma off the bench as well, potentially could be a really good option for us. I'm going to go for a Spurs win. And you remember when the last time our new Dutch signing played in his debut against Man City, we won the game and he scored. So hopefully Danjuma can do the same. But yeah, I've gone for 2-1 to Spurs. Sim's gone for 2-2. Let's move on to the star men. Sim's gone for Morgan, Gibbs, White. I've gone for Karu Mitoma. And why Gibbs White, Sim?
I just got a feeling he's in quite good form. I'm quite being impressed recently with some of his performances. He's playing in quite an advanced position as well for Forest right now. And he really is starting to come into his own. And I think in an open game at home to Leeds, I think he's got the capability of making a bit of a difference and getting on the score sheet. So a bit outside the box, but I've gone for Gibbs White.
Yeah, I've gone for Mitoma, Sim star man of last week. I mean, the guy is just on absolutely firing form at the moment. If anyone saw that goal he scored in the cup last week, was what a goal he was. Left foot, right foot, banging, volley. What skill this guy has, what dribbling ability this guy has. And them against Bournemouth at home, I'm expecting a battering for Brighton. So I think Mitoma is going to be central to everything that they do. So I'm hoping for at least 2 goal contributions for Mitoma this weekend. But that is our Predict the Prem. Let me know in the comment section below who you think is going to come out on top. What are your predictions and who are your star men for this weekend? Thank you everyone for watching today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.